guys, I'm Claire and I'll be your host today.
Co-hosting. So Claire, what will we be talking about today?
I'm sure that you'll have read the novel Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe.
Yeah, I did.
Which character did you find the most fascinating?
The daughter, the one that Okonkwo was most proud of, Ezinma. She was ironically the only one that truly portrayed the masculinity of the Igbo culture. Actually, I dare say that she was the one that relates most directly to the feminist stance which currently bystand our lives.
I did not think of that. Ezinma was the most manly child of Okonkwo's children, and despite being a girl in the predominantly patriarchal Igbo culture, it felt as though she had authority over the other children and influence over her father.
Which makes Ezinma's character very interesting in the context of the Igbo culture. So what do you think Achebe was trying to critique through this character?
Alright, before we discuss the question and continue our in-depth discussion on Ezinma's character, I have invited two other guests, Jennifer and Emily, to add their valuable opinions into the discussion. Let's welcome Emily!
Hi, I'm Emily. Thanks for the warm welcome.
I hope you like Things Fall Apart by Achebe because we were wondering what you think Achebe was trying to convey through the character Ezinma.
Well, from Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe explores the gender dynamics through Ezinma's confident masculine temperament that formed an unconventional mutual respect between the father and daughter relation of Okonkwo and Ezinma. Ezinma's unique disposition delineates the contrast between customary expectation of female roles and her own masculine nature. In that, Achebe illustrates how difficult it is to defy the traditional norms that surrounds the female roles as Ezinma ultimately conforms to Igbo expectations.
Oh, wow, that was really fast. By the way, I'm Jennifer.
Impressive, Emily, our esteemed guest indeed.
Hey, I know a lot about Things Fall Apart too.
Okay, then why don't you tell the circumstances in which Ezinma lived in?
Well, Igbo culture is largely defined by its division between males and females. Each have their own roles in society, and it is expected of them to follow these customs. For instance, the females are given the responsibility to provide for the family, which includes household chores and even financial duties that are generally considered to be the work of men. However, I find that it is infuriating that females are really only valued as people who give birth in Igbo culture. Other than that, they have little to no worth by themselves.
So this makes Ezinma an even more dynamic character. In the Igbo culture, the worst of men are called and labeled Agbala, which means women. This term is used on men to not only show the lack of value that females hold, but also to show how men are inherently of a higher value. To climb the Igbo hierarchy, men need to farm man crops, which is yam, the king of crops, successfully and earn titles. Men are providers of the family, the head of the family, and leaders of society. They're allowed to have multiple wives and are able to be and valiantly display their power and authority. In fact, all the activities that are celebrated socially, such as wrestling, emphasizes the importance of physical strength and courage. This defines masculinity, and it becomes clear that the Igbo people prioritize masculinity. Being such a man in this society means that you are confident and powerful, in which Ezinma's confidence in herself makes her almost masculine, an anomaly in Igbo culture.
One of the reasons I believe Ezinma is a character that symbolizes the gesture of a crossing of gender dynamics is due to her lack of restrictions. The females in the Igbo culture are, to some degree, controlled by the men. Since the people believed that men were superior to the women and thus in control of them, the men were allowed to physically injure the women if they misbehaved or such. One example seen in the book is when Okonkwo beats his second wife, Ikwifi. Although he was later punished for his actions, he was only reprimanded due to the fact that he beat her during the Peace Week, a time of peace and tranquility in the Igbo culture. In other words, he was punished for beating his wife at the wrong time.
So women are overruled by the men, yet Ezinma suffers less restraints than those of her same gender. Ezinma's ability to grow into a child of brave and precocious rashness can be said to be due to her father's frequent absence with her duties in the village, and how her mother coddles her. In fact, Ezinma's manliness can be seen when Okonkwo shouted at her to sit like a woman. Ezinma brought her two legs together and stretched them in front of her. She should have been a boy, Okonkwo thought to himself. From this scene, we can tell that Ezinma was originally sitting very unladylike in front of her father, the head of the family, and from the context of a society where people abided rigidly to traditional custom and rules, Ezinma's blatant physical disobedience of not sitting properly and respectfully in front of her father can very well serve her a punishment. However, instead of beating Ezinma, Okonkwo only berated her for her insolence, which is a clear indication of his fondness of her. At the same time, his reminiscing words of "she should have been a boy" shows that he is also proud of her for being such a masculine character.
And the fact that Ezinma is female and culturally should be submissive and passive depicts an ironic situation between the eldest son, Noye, and Ezinma, the eldest daughter, which is that the which is that Noya should be the more masculine person, yet is not, while Ezinma is. This discrepancy between the gender dynamics shows that even females can be strong and valid. Furthermore, we know that Ezinma is masculine because Achebe differentiated Ezinma by showing how much Okonkwo likes her, a real feat. Because of Okonkwo's fixation on masculinity and strength, the fact that Okonkwo is so fond of Ezinma serves to depict how she fits into Okonkwo's ideal, which is being masculine in equal terms. Even Noya, his firstborn son of his first wife, is not as well liked as Ezinma.
In addition, Achebe also comments on the rigidity of the Igbo norms. Even everyday actions like sitting are gender-coded. Women and men have their specific way of sitting, and if one does not follow, it is overstepping the boundaries between masculinity and femininity. Ezinma walks between the border between this with the body of a female for all intents and purposes. However, her personality and mannerisms are akin to that of a man.
She gets these traits from being coddled and protected by her mother. Adding on to Jennifer's previous observation, Ezinma is seen to share almost an equal status with her mother. The typical relationship of a mother and a daughter, where the daughter respects the mother as an elder and thus more authoritative figure than a child, does not apply to this pair. Instead, she calls her mother by her name, as any equal would.
As we can see from the quote, Ezinma did not call her mother Ne like all other children. She called her by her name Ikwifi, as her father and other grown-up people did. The relationship between them was not only that of mother and child. There was something in it like the companionship of equals, which was strengthened by such little conspiracy as eating eggs in the bedroom. But it was impossible to refuse Ezinma anything. After her father's rebuke, she developed an even keener appetite for eggs, and she enjoyed above all the secrecy in which she ate them. This unique mother-daughter relationship is one of the defining reasons for Ezinma being able to defy the conventional woman roles. Her mother excessively dotes on her, fostering her confidence in herself, and places Ezinma on a pedestal that is of equal height to her mother's. This also gives Ezinma more freedom than other children.
Yes, we can see this thought through her mother Ikwifi's act of sharing eggs with Ezinma. Eggs are traditionally seen as products of delicacy and importance, food that are reserved for special situations because they are so delicious. Hence, in Igbo culture, children are rarely allowed to eat eggs, as supposedly they would entice children to steal. However, because Ikwifi lost all her previous children, Ikwifi gives Ezinma anything she wants. So Ezinma probably took the act of eating eggs as something that was granted. Thus, even when Okonkwo tried to stop her, Ezinma became more rebellious and enjoyed the secrecy.
This really shows how independent Ezinma is. She actively goes against the societal norm, and ironically, it seems as if the expectation of the society has actually caused Ezinma to become more masculine. Okonkwo's rebuke further brought Ezinma's rebellious nature out and also made her do the exact opposite of how women were expected to act like.
Yet, despite how much Ezinma tried to break the set gender roles, the pressures of society ultimately forced Ezinma to conform to the female roles of the Igbo culture.
That reminds me of this quote. Ezinma grew up in her father's exile and became one of the most beautiful girls in Banta. She was called Crystal of Beauty, as her mother had been called in her youth. The young alien girl who had caused her mother so much heartache had been transformed almost overnight into a healthy, buoyant maiden. She had, it was true, her moments of depression where she would snap at everybody like an angry dog. These moods descended on her suddenly and for no apparent reason, but they were rare and short-lived. As long as they lasted, she could bear no other person but her father. It ends Ezinma's personal rebellion against Igbo's norm, with Ezinma all grown up and at a suitable age for marriage. Following her previous masculine characteristic, she rebels against societal norms and refuses all suitors. And despite the fact that Okonkwo was terribly fond of her, he understands that societal tradition must precede any love he holds for her. I think this also hints at how strong cultural tradition is amongst the livelihood of the people.
We must remember that the Igbo tradition dictates that when a woman is of suitable age, she should be married, or else it will make the family seem pathetic and not as well respected. It is because of this that Okonkwo lets go of his hold on Ezinma and tells her to marry, saying, "There are many, quote, many good and prosperous people here, but I should be happy if you marry in Utopia when we return home." That was all he had said, but Ezinma had seen clearly all the thought and hidden meaning behind the few words, and she had agreed. Here you can see that Ezinma, while rejecting all other suitors and what we can view as a rebellious phase against the social norm, she also grows up to be obedient to her father's words. To marry someone in Umofia of better standing as a way to help her father improve his reputation and status. The fact that Ezinma decided to listen to her father and be willing to marry off in a political marriage to someone else contrasts with her bold nature as a young child. In other words, Ezinma, all grown now, has chosen to succumb to expectation of the Igbo custom towards women where she is to be married off, as if that's all her value is. Ezinma is awfully complacent with her father, isn't she? In some part of her, she must also be giving up her identity in order to become a full-fledged member of the society.
Yes, I think the fact that in the end, Ezinma still ends up following the way that's expected of a woman in her society shows how very difficult it is to surpass traditional values. Despite her masculine nature, which gained Okonkwo's fondness, Ezinma would not have been able to gain the approval from the members of her village due to her gender. She was bound to be perceived by others based on her gender role, the woman who is the caretaker of her family. Okonkwo must have also realized this and made the best out of the situation by asking for her compliance in a political marriage in order to benefit his own status. Ezima's future was determined with her gender, and she must oblige to the equal custom of behaving as a proper woman, no matter her own personality traits.
It's rather upsetting considering how she gave up her own identity in order to conform to the role of a woman, which also exemplifies the inevitability of her conformity. The delay of Ezima's conformity to equal traditions was stalled due to her parents' fondness towards her. Okonkwo favored her masculinity as well, yet eventually acknowledged the role Ezinma must abide due to her gender. Ezinma cannot defy the traditions of her culture and must live up to the standards expected from her as she is female.
That's very well said, Claire, and I think that that would be all the time we have today. Thank you so much for the discussion today, Emily and Jennifer.
Yay.
Bye.
Say bye. Oh no.
Bye.